Yeah, but I'd love for a few more people to put this thing on, and I will switch to a more of a gallery view so I can as well understand and see you guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, just as a quick context, right? Why these two questions I want to kind of put in front of y'all to start with. Yeah. You have to think about building your resume in the same way that you would think about building a product for a user. Okay. Who is your user in this case? Samir, for some reason you're in black and white. I don't know why, but it's okay. So think of it basically.
Camera, I don't know.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So if your resume is essentially the product that you're positioning to the user, being the recruiter, how would you think about first of all, what framework would you use? What content would you put? How would you make the journey, the journey map for the user, and what is it that you want the user to pick up immediately? How would the UI look so that, it's immediately something which is very simple, yet, beautiful, yet credible, yet, all of whatever emotional factors you want to attach to it, right? Whatever user mentality you want to put, right? So if you think of it that way, there is something which you're going to always have to keep in mind, that a resume is a constant work in progress, right? In the product world, you'll have noticed that so many companies launch so many features. And if you start working in this industry in depth, right, what you'll come across is one of the reasons a lot of features get dropped as companies progress is simply because it is not being nurtured, right? Because nobody is constantly following through on what has been built the first time. Yeah. So what does that mean? That means that your resume will need a lot of rework repeatedly. Yeah. So I was in fact just on a one-on-one session right now with Samir. Yeah. So I was giving him an example. I was showing him one sample of one of my older resumes. And for me to arrive at that version which I showed him, that was still not the final one. That was about my 12th draft for that particular version for a particular organization. Okay. I'm not trying to scare you here. What that means is that slowly, more and more, you'll understand how to keep fine-tuning. Okay. But before you can reach the stage of fine-tuning, you need to keep in mind certain basic things, which is what the perfect fit course is all about. Yeah. And I would genuinely recommend that you spend a good amount of time on that. All right. Now I'll tell you a few, I'm not going to go through the whole course with you, but I'll tell you a few fundamental pieces in that, right? And then I'll take you to that screen as well. And I'll give you my example, last year when I was, I myself was part of the executive course with Talvinder and, did a lot of in-depth conversations with him prior to joining. So, okay, don't know who the Zoom user is, but yes, it just says Zoom user, hi, welcome. So one of the things which I learned, and this would be the case for irrelevant of what point in your career you're at, right? And maybe you are just starting off and you're trying to get into product management, or you've been doing other roles and you're trying to get into product management, or maybe you've been in product management, but you're trying to upskill yourself and reach a more senior post. So you have to, maybe different certain skill sets you don't have, et cetera, et cetera. There are many different reasons that you're doing this course. So it is very important to understand there is this little triangle of the different kinds of product managers, which is in the course. Not sure if you've come across it. If you haven't, find it and consume it. The three edges of the triangle are product strategy, a technical product manager, and product marketing. Yeah. Now, I don't come from a technical degree, for example, right? I come from a bachelor's in psychology, with a master's in marketing and consumer behavior. So I am essentially a user behavioral PM. Okay. What was happening for me, because I am sort of a decade plus into my work stream, while I did quite a few different roles, the common thread across all my roles was, how do I use product and technology to solve a pain point? Yeah. Now that pain point may be an internal workflow management tool that needs to be built, or maybe I need to implement Proof Hub or something, or Salesforce. Yeah, either build or buy. That's the basic thing, right? It could be external user pain points, such as, there was a period with I was heading product for a few years with an NGO which was started by Google and Tata Trust, right? So we did a lot of work, very, very in-depth work for the next billion users, focused primarily on rural India. Yeah. So I come with business and user mindset instead of a technical mindset. And what was happening was, I was constantly thinking, how do I compete with other PMs out there? And in that process, the way I was building my resume was trying to compete with them, rather than taking a step back first and seeing, where do I fall? And I came across this triangle thanks to Talvinder much later, after a lot of these questions came. And it was through understanding that and fine-tuning which kind of organizations I want to apply to, and the kinds of PMs that they have and they are looking for, and looking at those LinkedIn profiles, instead of comparing myself with the technical side PMs, because I'm not ever going to be able to compete with them. Yeah. So I have entrepreneurial experience as well. I have business experience, and I have user behavior experience. In India, to a very large extent, what I saw was majorly companies wanted a technical background. That's the fair assumption. So my list may not have been as big as maybe technical PMs out there, but I was still applying to the wrong list. So A, I was either facing rejection, or B, if I was getting jobs, like a couple of them, where I felt that I was not able to perform at the level that I believe I can, because indirectly it needed me to have certain technical skills. Doing a course, understanding APIs and databases and everything is one thing. But having come with a decade experience, and considering I'm not at a fresher's salary, I can't really ask for that, right? Each one of y'all may have a different background, but maybe similar barriers or certain thoughts that you have today while building your resume. So first and foremost, figure out what that pinpoint is. Like for me, I sat somewhere between product strategy and product marketing, somewhere on that side of the triangle, right? Even there, I needed to fine tune a little bit more down to two sections of it. Each one of y'all need to figure out where you lie. Once you do that, then you start looking out there. There is this beautiful methodology that you have in the Perfect Fit course with how to shortlist companies. What are your skill sets? What are your strengths? It gives you a very nice 5-point, pentagram graph of how your performance on different skill sets are. That will tell you a lot, guys. Okay. Also, depending at which stage of your career you're at, you need to think about whether you want to experiment right now, or whether you want to get into stability, or whether you want to, just grow as your current role, or you want to start off in product analytics because you've done analytics. Maybe you've been a DA, general data analyst. Now you want to get into product, but product analytics, and then maybe later product management. These are calls you have to take. And of course, the placement team and the mentors who in your cohorts will guide you accordingly, right? I can't guide you in a short call like this because I won't have enough context. Yeah, but I can give you basic inputs. Now, let's come to the resume side. Keeping these pieces in mind, there are 5 clear parameters that are given to you during your building of a resume. There is a chapter in the Perfect Fit module for create, and I'll project my screen so that it's easy to see. Yeah, can everybody see?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So creating a strong resume. There are clear, simple 5 pieces that you need to keep in mind, okay? And I'm going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes max just going through this particular piece, this module, this chapter specifically. And then I want to keep the second half of today's call for questions, okay? Let's go to format first. And I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I'm sure you guys have done that. But keep in mind that this has been put together considering a lot of detailed analysis, experience that the team at Pragmatic Leaders has, okay? So one thing that I'm seeing is a lot of people are not following the basic 5 points that are mentioned here, right? So you should not be submitting your resume to us for review if you're not being able to spend time, look at your resume and compare with these 5 points. Yeah. And I'm sure everybody here is mature enough to, kind of look at the resumes themselves and say, hey, okay, we are not giving what is needed and what has been asked of us. Because that then leads to a lot of extra unnecessary time of going back and forth. Yeah. Coming to format again, there is something called an ATS, which I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar with, called an application tracking system. There are many ATS systems out there. Yeah, you could, if you want, you could, like there's JobScan, there's a couple of others. Some of them are paid, some of them are free, one-time use. I see a lot of people, and I've done it in the past as well, quite a while ago, where I used Naukri offer, Naukri has this thing where you can pretty much ask them to make the resume for you. Yeah. Sorry, some issue. Yeah. So put that all aside, right? Now there is standard formats like the ones used by IIMs and IITs. Almost ATSs are trained on them. Now, this is a point which everybody that you go to, different mentors and different people will have different kinds of inputs on, which is whether to follow a multi-column system or not. And I'll come to that. Okay. But there are some other clear parameters. White space between sections being 1.5x of the font size. Okay. Now your font size should not be 8, where somebody can't even read what you're trying to write. Okay. This is a format, this one that's in the module itself, which I am personally a big proponent of. Okay. And I also experimented with many different kind of templates and formats. I spent time on Google. I spoke to some mentors of mine who are, quite senior in Google. They've worked with IDEO, which is one of the best known design agencies in the world, etc., etc. But what this format gives is a cleanliness, different sections, and the ability to conditional format and keep it nice and simple and clean. Okay. So this is about format. All right. Let's go to the next point, language. This is something, again, a lot of resumes I'm seeing is you guys are, I don't know whether you're understanding this or there is a gap there. A lot of resumes that I've been consuming in the last few months is missing this aspect. Let's take an example like mentioned here. Yeah. And I'm going to take the second example and I'll tell you why after I tell you the example. Passive is 24% growth was gained by the team over 2 years. Active, my team gained 24% growth over 2 years. Guys, what's a basic difference here between these two sentences? Anybody? Hello?
The second one about seems to be, more towards the, ability side. It's
Sorry,
more on the
Sameer?
stronger side.
Okay. When you say stronger, what do you mean? You're in the right track, but what do you mean by stronger?
Just give me a second. Sorry, my kids are around, so.
No worries.
Stop camera. So yeah, when you say my team.
If you want to take a stab, then I think Mukul was saying something. Mukul, I'll come to you after that.
Sure.
Sameer, go ahead.
Okay, I was saying, when we say that my team has gained 24% growth over 2 years, with respect to the passive one, within 24% was gained, right? So it gives you more of a sense that, you have done or you have achieved something.
Very right. Very right. I'll add to that, but you're perfectly on the right track. Mukul?
In the passive, we are more emphasizing on 20%, that number. Instead of that active, we are emphasizing on my team and all.
Okay, I get what you're saying, but slight change in what you're saying and adding to what Sameer is saying. The difference here is when your user, this is your product, right? So when your user reads this, like on your app, you'll have content. Your content needs to be very simple, crisp, and clear. When a reader reads the first sentence, they say, okay, the company achieved 24%. Okay, great. But what has that got to do with you? The active says, my team, meaning I have achieved with my team 24% growth for the company over 2 years. Are you getting the difference? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll take another example. Let's take the first example. Okay. A promotion to senior manager was awarded to me after completing the project. And a lot of you all have, mentioned some similar statements. But the way you need to say it is take ownership, right? Take ownership, and with ownership means accountability, right? So you have taken ownership and said that, hey, I did the project. I did it great. I achieved ABC. I completed it and I was promoted. I was promoted. So this is the difference between passive versus active verbs. All right. Action verbs, there's a whole list that's also been given to you here. Really think about which of these you can use in the statements you're making, right? To be able to put across that you did something. And when you do this, you can honestly even skip the my or the I word. Okay. So let's go to the resume, right? Managed executions and deliverables of data analytics products for tier 1 healthcare clients, providing revenue opportunities worth so much. Do you see any I over here or my team? No, right? Guys?
No.
Yeah. The reason is these words that you've been given, this list below, automatically make it clear that you are the one doing the work. And that's what the recruiter or the person interviewing wants to know. A, they don't want to know general responsibilities without if that responsibility did not have an impact on any metric. Okay. So I am for a second going to compare this whole sample and this whole sample. I'm going to compare both of them as well. While they're talking about two different things, what I see as if I'm consuming someone's resume is, okay, great. He completed the project. He got promoted. Okay, but what impact did he create? Simply completing a project is not an achievement, right? It's part of your general responsibility. However, if you tell me that, let's take a word from, let's take a sentence from here itself, right? Let's take this one, spearheaded. Yeah. So you spearheaded enhancements and growth strategy for digital product. And that could very well have just been your general responsibility, being a KRA, right? But you're telling me that this work that I did helped customers increase revenue realization and improve insured members' risk capture by 20%. That is immediately telling me, hey, this person did their work as part of their KRA, and they did the KRA in such a manner that it brought an impact to the organization. You getting the difference?
Yes.
Between this and this now. Yeah?
Yeah.
So let's scroll down further. You can go through this on your own. I don't want to, go through each one of these. Yeah. So we talked about two parameters so far. Yeah. What are the two parameters? Format and language. The next is content curation. Now, the entire first 10 minutes where I gave you an example of, how I went about and what I needed to do, and then the triangle as well. This is where content curation comes about. Okay. So how to go about it is very clearly written here. You can read this on your own. I'll tell you what I do. When I create a resume version for the first time, maybe, after working for a couple of years somewhere, I want to reapply, I want to, change, or maybe I just want to experiment and see what's out there. So I have to update my resume. So what do? I have one resume, which is called a resume 0, which has all my achievements from the day that I started working in a very, very rough format. And that can go up to 5 pages, 7 pages, etc. Doesn't matter. But what that gives me is a full list of achievements. And the way you see it here, what is this? Does this look familiar to everybody who's worked? It's basically your mid-year or your year appraisal review format. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really not very different. So take the information that you feed in wherever you've worked for this in this kind of format and keep it with you. I didn't for the first few years of my career, and that was a mistake I made. And when I try to think back now and try to find these numbers, it is very painful, right? And you don't want to lie on your resume. Yeah. So you need to think about how to keep a track of all this. And you'll notice some of them have values, some of them don't. And that's okay. Yeah. But it will give you very good reference point even during your interviews. If you put a point which has, I created X impact, and the person asks you questions, and this job may have been 7 years ago. If you have this as a reference, you know how to answer that question instead of making up something. Yeah. And somebody who knows the space that you're applying to, meaning maybe your future manager, will ask you very, very in-depth questions, irrelevant how long ago your experience was. So keep this in mind. Yeah. So just create this list. Very important. Now, this is where the real work comes in. So do you see this? Growth hacker, project manager, product strategy. Depending on the role that you're applying for, depending on the company that you're applying for, when you go through that, right? So you go to other people's, say you want to apply to, guys, give me a name of a startup which is big in the news today. Not for firing people, but for hiring. Anybody?
Hard to tell now.
Miso.
Misho is for firing here.
No, they
Let's
are
take
in
Nika.
hiring
Let's
also.
take Nika. Let's take Nika. Yeah. Nika's doing pretty well. So you want to apply to PM roles at Nika. First of all, you need to see what kind of PMs are they hiring. Secondly, is that the kind of PM that you fit in with? If yes, great. Step one, somewhere started. Then you look at other people in the organization who are PMs for similar or same roles and see how they are, what is the kind of curated content they have on their LinkedIn profiles. If you can get in touch with them, speak with them, fantastic, do that. If not, at least look at the LinkedIn profiles and get information from there. That will start giving you a baseline of what content out of this massive list that you need to put in and what not to. Whether you put in achievement 1, achievement 2, achievement 3, depending on, with job, etc., etc. Yeah. So this is where your product manager archetypes is very important. Yeah. You have a section on archetypes here. Yeah. So you can go to that at any point. I'll just briefly go there. Yeah. I'm sure all of you all have done this. If not, you please do spend some time. This is very, very vital. Okay. Let's come back here. So matching your archetype and the content that you have as your achievement list or whatever, then translating it into the resume is work that you will need to do. And you may need to do it repeatedly. Please be okay with that. The reason I'm saying this is I've had a couple of conversations with students who feel very frustrated, and I can understand the feeling with having to redo resumes. But that is the job. That is literally the job, because this is the first feature of the product, call it your onboarding screen, right? Which a user will look at. So it's very, very important. Okay. Then there are some very clear hacking points which have been put for the resume here. For example, let's take this. Scaled leads by XX by smart audience segmentation and building automated personalized funnels. Hack here is to know what defines a success. It is always scaling key metrics from X to Y, hence highlight that. So a couple of things, and you will notice there are 3 roles that have been put here. And this is another feedback that I've been giving regularly to a lot of students. Guys and girls and ladies, gentlemen, please spend time framing your bullet points. Do not put 5-line sentences for a single bullet point. Do not put general 3-line sentences of I did this, and that, etc., and I got promoted. Not needed. A simple 1-line sentence where you mention the work you did, the impact number. Impact means number, right? And what change it brought. Simple. Keep this in mind. It'll automatically become much easier for you to go from an achievement list to a resume. And it may be, and it took me, and like I was giving you an example of my conversation with Samir a little while ago, it was in the 12th version where I was able to bring it down to literally probably about average of 7 to 8 words per bullet point with a metric and words. Right. And what that gives is A, space for you to give more impacts, more bullet points, and B, makes it easy for the reader to just go bang, okay, this guy has done this. And the most important point, it creates curiosity for your recruiter, your to-be manager, maybe the super boss, to ask you, hey, this is interesting. How did you achieve this? Then you get into the details. That these are the steps I took. This is the impacts it had. These are the learnings I had. This is how it can be done better in the future. Yeah. Again, similarly, this is a very important point. Go 80% for dominant archetype and 20% for another archetype to show the overall that you're skilled across multiple areas. Okay. Quickly, this next section, guys, is very underestimated, which is visual appeal. Okay. Here, this sentence says everything else. Your resume should be parsable by machine, legible and easily scannable in 7 seconds by a human eye. I would say keep it literally 5 seconds. In 5 seconds, can the person who's looking at your resume look and see, say, assume it's gone through the ATS and it's come into the filter of the recruiter or the manager or whatever, that I'm able to look at the resume, see the top profile summary. Let's go here and I'll tell you. This is my career summary, where I get immediately an understanding of the kind of experience. So depth, breadth, sorry, this is breadth, this is depth, this is skill sets, and this is awards. If you can bring this up right on top, immediately the reader will want to read more. Even if maybe you're just starting in your career, you don't have all of this. Maybe you've just done one job so far. That's okay. Use these sections when you're talking about the work that you've done, right? In a way that it's easily legible to the user. Like, I love this particular example, 5 bullet points, each single one of them covering, it's literally the T-shape of different skill sets, right? And it covers impacts, as well as maybe a little general work that I've done. Yeah. Let's quickly go down. Visual appeal, right? Now, for me, visual appeal, I personally, like I mentioned, I'm a big proponent of this kind of template. Okay. There is another template option that's been given at the bottom in your here assignment priority list and resume, which is a little bit more IIT, IIM, ISP format. You could use that as well. However, if you use that, it should not be difficult for a user to consume. This is the format, okay? This becomes extremely crowded if you're trying to fit a lot of information into one go, okay? If you want to use this format, my recommendation, it's my opinion and recommendation, it's your call, guys. You can choose between this format and the other format that you saw in the flow here, okay? But my recommendation is that. Next is proofreading. So while you can use Grammarly, you can do a lot of this. You know what I would definitely do? And there is a lot of grammar mistakes. So Grammarly may pick up some of it. It may pick up spell check maybe in Microsoft Word or Google or whatever. I have learned from getting someone else. It could be a batchmate. It could be a family member. It could be a friend, to simply do a reading of the resume to check for errors, right? Because very often we spend so much time making the resume, we will not notice these mistakes. Yeah, but definitely do that. I know a lot of hiring managers in the 12 odd years that I've been working, and there was a time, I'll tell you, I was working with a training and placement firm for the banking industry, for investment banking and retail banking. For retail banking, for HDFC, I used to do sometimes maybe 200 interviews in a day, right? Now, what does that mean? I would take resumes, and if I knew that if the role needed good grammar and good spoken English, that was easily for me one of the easiest ways to reject a huge number of resumes in one go. Yeah, because they don't meet the basic criteria. What am I going to do by understanding that experience? Yeah. So again, think about this. A PM needs to be, and maybe if you are a technical PM, your language skill set may be not so much needed. But if you're in product strategy or you're in product marketing side of the triangle, it becomes even more valuable. So think about this, guys. And I'm saying everybody is not at the same English skill set level as everybody else. So get help, take help. There's no harm in that. Yeah. So let's take this example of a resume where these mistakes are mentioned, right? Listing each and every online certificate, overuse of personal pronouns, wrong contact information, focusing too much on subjection rather than result. You can read through it yourself. You'll get a sense. Okay. Here is all my academic achievements. Here are all my extracurriculars. Here are all my positions of responsibility, etc., 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 etc. Yeah. So just to summarize, 5 things. That's all this whole module and this whole chapter is about. But these 5 things will carry you a long, long way. Trust me on that. Okay, I'll stop sharing, come back here. Okay, open to questions now, guys. I can see a few people who've done a couple of sessions with me, and maybe I think 1 or 2 who've fixed more appointments this week.
Thanks, Ahmed. That was quite helpful, actually. Basically, yeah.
Guys, questions?
Hi, Rohan here.
Hey, Rohan. Video?
Hi,
No video?
just a second. Just give me a second. I just don't know. Yeah. Hi.
Hey.
So I just had. I mean, I don't have any difficulty in making the resume per se, but I had a doubt more on. So I don't have any product management experience yet. While I have worked on certain digital initiatives at my earlier job and even at my current one, we're already quite tech-led at my. So just to give you a little bit of a background on myself, I've been in the institutional equity side, on the sell side as an analyst for the last 4 years. So
on the equity side, what did you say after that? Sales analyst.
Sell side equity analyst.
Okay, understood. And
Yeah.
you've been an analyst on that side. Okay, yeah.
Right. So I want to make a pivot into product management. So when I basically when I make a iteration of my CV, I don't think it has enough metrics which would be appealing for a product manager's resume, at least to maybe give the opportunity. So what are the other things that I can do to maybe include? I do have a few side projects that I run. So what can be sort of maybe added if you don't have specific product experience? That was my question.
Fabulous question. Bang on. A very good question to ask, Rohan, and actually it comes up a lot in a lot of the conversations that I have. So I'll answer the question in 2 parts. Okay. One is the side about not being in product before, and the second is about your side projects, right? I also found my way into product. I had to fight my way, fight both, right? Kind of thing. And unlike probably a lot of people, it wasn't very early in my career. I went from a lot of business roles and marketing combined with product, moved into CX side of things. Then from there, moved into the UX more deeply, and then found my way a lot more into, product per se. Yeah. So I also had similar issues. Fantastic that you're doing side projects, so you can talk about them, because that is essentially showing, and I hope your side projects are products of things that you're doing out there. Yeah, Rohan?
Yes.
Yeah. So talk about them, talk about metrics that you're trying to achieve, talk about learnings, talk about movement that you did, etc. Better even, and it's part of the perfect fit overall thing, is create your portfolio using those projects. Quite a long time ago in one of my conversations, Talvindari gave me this very, very cool example of one of his very first students, right? Who didn't really have a lot of background, on the technical side of product, right? So what he did is he spent a lot of time writing about the technical side from a non-technical person for product on blogs out there like Medium or whatever. That's one thing he did. Second is the person built his portfolio in a way that if anybody ever asked him a technical question, he simply sent the portfolio link, right? And he got his interviews basis that, and he cracked them basis that. Okay. So use that to your advantage. Use it to fill, and I would say move the direction of the content curation to fill gaps which may be there on the resume. Okay, number one. Number two, any role that you're doing today, right, has a KRA.
Right.
You have your KRA and KPIs, right?
Right.
You have to achieve them.
Right.
You would always like to be in the exceeded expectation bucket so that you get promoted.
Right.
Talk about that. Most organizations today have KRAs and KPIs with a numerical metric value attached. Salespeople have targets, operations people have efficiency targets, analysts have maybe data hygiene targets, maybe a dashboard building targets, maybe efficiency building targets.
Right. So actually, in my particular case, it's a little different from that. So it's mostly on disseminating information about publicly listed companies. So
Fantastic.
more on the publishing and research side.
Does that lead to any metric for the organization?
Oh, yeah, a lot of income, yes.
Fantastic. So focus on those revenues. Say that my work by doing XYZ, or just say I spearheaded developing of this new report, which led to a 200 million extra revenue generated for the company for the year. Right.
Understood. Yeah.
What that does in one sentence is tells the reader that A, this person did well. Now, the way I would put it, instead of just saying 200 million, I would say 1.2x of target. What that says, I overachieved. Yeah. So that positioning is also important. The game is all about positioning.
Understood. That was very helpful.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amay, I have a follow-up question to that. Sure. So a lot of times, most of the job roles that pop up on TrueMerit are either for an APM role or a PM role. Now, for someone like me who has absolutely no background in product management, I'll be applying to both of them, right? So from a resume perspective, what is something that should always mention when I'm applying for an APM role, and something that I should always mention when I'm applying for a PM role? Is there a segregation, or is it like a free flow?
It's very difficult to give you a general answer, Navarro.
I know. I've been struggling with it.
Right. So the way to maybe try and find the answer for that is one of the things I was saying earlier, which is say that on TrueMerit, TrueHike. Sorry, which is it?
It is TrueHike.
TrueHike, right? You get the roles, right? You get the companies.
Yeah.
Get onto LinkedIn. Look at other APMs and PMs at that organization. Right. See what is it that they're mentioning on their LinkedIn profiles. Reach out to them. Maybe you reach out to 5, maybe 1 response, right?
Got it.
If they're helpful, saying that, hey, you know what, I'm trying to apply to your org. And you know, most guys today are helpful because almost everybody gets a referral bonus.
Yeah.
So they'll say, I'll send it in, you know, kind of thing. But even if you don't get a response, see what's mentioned on their LinkedIn profile. See what they're talking about maybe in content on their LinkedIn, right? Read the JDs. I know a lot of companies copy paste JDs, you know, and I've seen I'll be very honest, some of the best companies out there copy paste a JD from one of their competitors and the recruiter or whoever has not even changed the name. Yeah. But it will give you context, right? It will give you context.
Yeah.
So seeing that context, you position yourself. Right. Let's take an example. Maybe the JD even says, you know, just very general roles and responsibilities, but the role title is growth. Then you want to talk about maybe whatever work you've done, maybe in marketing or sales or wherever, which led to growth.
Right.
Now, I'll add one caveat, and it could be applicable or not. See how you position yourself with that statement from a product angle. Like I, as a person, irrelevant of what work I've done. And I worked across, I believe in this, it's a framework called the 3Ps, right? People, process, product. Okay. I believe firmly that all three need to work together, but
Right.
not all organizations necessarily believe that. So I still pitch that, right, as 3Ps, which leads to curiosity. But in maybe my main bullet point or profile summary, or in my bullet points, I don't mention much about people or process because they don't really want to know that.
Got
I
it.
talk about the product angle. In my earlier jobs, I may not have done product, right? But I used what product was available, maybe internal platforms, or implemented a certain product or something. I was maybe lucky enough that I was doing that because I always believed that is the answer for long-term scaling. Yeah. But I also talk about that there are times where I didn't implement the product. We simply fixed it through processes.
Okay.
Right. So both are important to a lot of companies out there. Keep that in mind. Yeah. Because just building a product is not always the solution.
Got it.
Yeah. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Amar, I have a question.
Yes,
It's Mr. here. Yeah,
Thank you.
so you have approved my resume. So I have a fair idea that what we need to add in the resume. But since I have been in the product team for around 8 years, so in different role. But so now what happens is I have a lot of information that I can put in my resume, right? Which has metrics and which has everyone can relate that. So now what I am facing, the difficulty that I am facing is which points do I need to add in the resume? Because like one of my latest project that I was working on, I have a very thorough knowledge of that. You can ask me why, how the KPI work, everything, every single KPI I can give you example and how it impacted. There was another which is very much in demand, like the international payment view navigator. So I worked on that. The growth has been increased, due to which we added up new feature in that, and which has increased the growth. Now the thing is, how should I represent? I mean, there are a lot of information and I am unable to put it in one page of resume. So
Okay.
I'm facing that problem.
Syed, were you there for the beginning of the call?
Oh yes, I was there.
Okay. Do you remember me showing the section about moving from achievement list to resume points?
Yeah,
That's exactly the answer to your question.
but there are a lot of resume points.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, right? That's where I'm saying, guys, spend time going through the entire module in detail. I'll answer your question. Don't worry. Okay. But I cannot stress more that you need to do that because everything is there. Okay. Now, I also gave an example. Say if I have a resume 0. Okay. What is that? That is my exhaustive list of all achievements, all impacts that I have ever done. Okay. And it can go up, it's gone up to, I don't remember the last version, but probably around 8-9 pages because I have about 12 years experience. So, kind of lands up there. Not all of it is relevant to product, number one. Say that from 10 pages, it may come down to 7 pages. I still have 7 pages of content. Not all of it is relevant to the company I'm applying to. Automatically, it comes down more. Number 3 filter. Not all of it is relevant to the role I'm applying to. Automatically, it will come down drastically with these 4 filters. Okay. Now, once I have applied these 4 basic filters, right, I usually apply the product archetype filter now. Where do I fit? Now, technically, this 5th filter should be a 0 filter before the 4 filters and the fifth filter. The product archetype that you sit on. Because that is what will define where you're applying, the kind of roles you're applying, how you're applying, etc., etc. And then after you've done all that, it will help you fine tune what you want to talk about. Which is where looking at other people's LinkedIn profiles and other PMs for the organization and that role will help you bring it even further. Final step after all that is translating 5-line sentences into a 1-line sentence. That's how you get your answer. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions, guys? I guess not.
Not as of now.
It's
I
like,
believe once you
Sam,
start
you and
working
me-
on this,
you and me just had a call, so I hope you don't have more questions. Right? Yeah, cool. Thank you. Really appreciate you guys joining. I know it's a weekday and I'm sure everybody has work and everything. Before you all sign out, guys, Rakhi, could I please request a little poll, feedback poll, as to how 2 questions. A, did the content side of things make a difference to them? And B, any questions that they had, were they answered? If you could just help on a 1 to 5. Rakhi?
Hi, Amar, sorry, Rakhi had to move out of the session.
Sarika, if you could help.
So yeah, I am here. So guys, I think you have understood the context over here. You have understood the question which Amar has asked in terms of the feedback. So if you can probably just put it in the chat box, if that helps.
Okay, I'm guessing, Sarika, you and me both don't know how to activate the poll thing.
I am just putting it in the chat for ease of everyone.
Sure. Guys, feedback's very helpful. So please go ahead. Be honest.
And yes, more importantly, please be honest. That's the whole idea of taking the feedback so that we all can improve. Not only the mentor, but it will help us also to see where is the scope of improvement. So in case you feel there were some questions which Amar wasn't able to explain or clarify to an understandable extent, please do put that as well. That will be helpful.
Yeah. And I'll respond and someone from the team can get back, with on the Slack channels or something.
Right. So the kind of feedback that I am looking for over here is that how well Amar was able to clarify your questions. So I think that is the most important aspect for us at PL in terms of the learning support.
And if you guys want to be honest and anonymous, I'll log off. You guys can put it in.
That is also okay. Otherwise, I'm there on Slack. Just put a message to me. That is absolutely fine. You don't need to log off. Just put a message to me on my personal window in case you feel the session, could have been better in any way. So we understand it was good, but then in case you feel there is further scope of improvement, let us know.
Do let us know, please. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. We've passed the time. Yeah. Take care. All the best.
Thank you, Amar.
Thank you,
for taking out
Thank
time
you,
and being
Thank
so
you.
patient with all the queries. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Amar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take
Bye-bye.
care, guys.